serious Kabbalist in his own right. He doesn't like sharing this. Right, me and Moshe, for those of you who weren't here last time I was here, it was me and Moshe would run around 770 when the Rebbe was coming out on the stage singing Yechid, right? Me and him would sing Yechid together. There's not so many people. I can't. There's not so many people in my life that I could remember singing Yechid together with. At least when the. No, not really. So I'm saying the people that I sang Yechid with is one of the guys I sang Yechid with. In front of the Rebbe would come out on the stage.
It's short, man.
Yeah. So that's why when he says something, I have to respect his opinion.
It has to
I don't always agree, by the way. I respect it. Go for it.
It has to do with the concept of kafak, which is going back and forth. Right?
Yeah.
Like if you think that Mashiach is going to come through going to sin all the way, so you'll go to sin all the way. But then you'll stop and you'll say, oh, you know what? Maybe I'd rather to do it through the good things. So you stop and now you go through good things. And finally that gets to be, you reach some sort of gridlock at that end. Then you go back the other way and then you go back and forth. That's kafak.
I hear. Okay. But the question is that your choice?
It's forever not deciding. What?
Yeah, but what if you pick one way? You just pick one way, you go with it no matter what.
Yes.
You saying Mashiach won't come that way?
Well, yeah.
You're saying that it's an option. It's an option. You're saying there's an option. So I said there's an option of going bad or going good, and you're saying there's a third option of doing both, of going back and forth.
You were saying of neither,
right?
And I was saying
both,
but intermittently.
It's actually a pretty deep. It's actually a pretty deep concept. The head is. He's saying I said you could either go the good path or the bad path or not one of either one. He says you could also do both, which means you can have a person that for some of his life strives to do evil and then switches to good and then goes back and forth and back and forth. And Baruch Hashem, it's actually a good
mental disorder, bipolar.
It's a good concept. Huh?
We expand into the rest of the galaxy.
You'll find out. Right now we have a goal. Our goal is to bring Mashiach. Once Mashiach comes, he'll tell us what our next goal is.
Gaza. Make it Gaza.
Huh?
Make Gaza Azza.
Make it Gaza Azza.
Turns out that's all we have to do.
Huh?
Turns out that's all we have to do.
What do we have to do?
Just take Gaza back.
That's it. If we take Gaza, then Mashiach is gonna come.
Who knows, bro?
Huh?
Who knows?
Who knows what?
What if we take over Gaza and Mashiach is gonna boom?
It could be.
Wait, do you
It could be.
think
Good question.
Wow.
It doesn't necessarily say one way or the other. We don't even know who Amalek is.
That's
No
a
one
good
on?
question. It gets stored for all of history.
It's stored for all of history.
in a two-state solution or one state?
There already is a two-state solution. It's called Jordan and Israel.
I believe in a two-state solution. There should be one Jewish state and no other state.
Have you heard of this?
Wow.
The state of nothing. The state of nothing.
Have you heard of this?
I also
Geshem Shalom. Have you heard of this?
Standing of Shabbatean manuscript. Yeah, that's what we were discussing.
Redemption through sin.
We were discussing before you came Shabsai Tzvi and his and this exact theory.
We want one world order.
Huh?
We want one world order.
One more?
One world order.
One world order.
Yeah. Not Illuminati.
Not the why? What's wrong with the Illuminati? You ever met an Illuminati?
Of course.
I once, just a couple
Of course,
months,
Rabbi.
a few months ago, I was actually invited to join the Illuminati. I'm serious.
Oh, that's a scam.
Somehow totally.
Did
You got it too.
Did this
You got it too.
No, I got it actually like over a year ago.
Oh yeah.
But they said they sent me
They
the
thought of
thing
you.
and
They
they've got
thought
the
of you
bibs,
before you.
And they're like, all you have to do is sign a contract and we'll send you a car and money and you can have everything you want.
How do you guys even get put on this list?
I don't know. Facebook. I got a Facebook message. They say, "Hi, we're from the Illuminati, and we'd like you to join, etc." You know, all that stuff. This is the Shabbatean thing, huh?
It would be. I don't know.
Holiness to
Like you Illuminati exists.
Holiness to sin?
The Illuminati did
Okay,
exist.
another time, maybe.
Oh, we have the thing in the wrong place.
The holiness
Um,
of sin, like Gershom's Hollow.
The Illuminati definitely existed at some point of time. They were a movement that possibly had a lot to do with the Industrial Revolution, with not the Industrial Revolution, the Enlightenment movement, where they tried to convince people out of religious beliefs. There is historical facts about this group the Illuminati. They were somewhat connected to the Freemasons, although it wasn't the entire Freemasons. It was like kind of like a subgroup within of the Freemasons, called them Illuminati. There are those that say they don't exist anymore. And of course, this person on Facebook that tried to bring me to the Illuminati told me that they do exist. So, do they exist or don't they exist? I can't confirm or deny
They say
that.
they butter you up, and then they're like, "Oh, you can be part of the Illuminati, and we're going to give you a luxury."
As long as you right, but you have to give us your credit card number so that we can put money
You have
on
to go to
it.
the store, and you have to buy us. You have to go to the store and buy us $300 prepaid cash Visa cards and mail them to us, and then we'll let you.
Yeah,
We'll send you a bib.
send you a bib for $150. Yeah.
Looks like you try to become one of them.
You try you.
No. When
And
they,
fail.
I looked into them. No, when they contacted me, I looked at it. I was like, these profiles look like scams. And so that for a few days, I just started playing games with them.
Yeah, I did too. I played a little games with them.
And
I asked them to prove it.
I cursed them.
They made as if like they found me out from somewhere. So I said, "Who do you find out? Tell me one person that I actually know." So they tried to say somebody that one of my Facebook friends. I said, "I never met that guy." Like most of my Facebook friends, I have something like 4,500 Facebook friends. Maybe out of them, I met 200-300 of them. How many? Right? Most of these people I didn't meet. So I said, "Tell me which one of these that I actually meet." They didn't. Anyways, they tried to take your money. Can I know how to? The Illuminati didn't try to take people's money, but they were a very vicious group. It seems like they had certain things that they wanted to bring to the world, and they would fight viciously to even kill and etc. That's what it seems like from history. You could look it up, by the way. There is some historic fact about the Illuminati. Today, there's a movement of people today. There's a movement of people today that they call themselves, people call them conspiracy theorists, where they're kind of, it's almost like they have a hobby to come up with mysterious possibilities of conspiracies, right? Not necessarily is there any accuracy, but they kind of enjoy it. They enjoy excuse me, if you want to talk, we'll let you talk. You come here, let's talk. Right? I always say, I don't mind if you talk. I don't mind if I talk. I just mind if we both talk. That's not good. But yeah, anyways, what were we saying? What does this have to do with Torah learning? We're supposed to be learning Torah. Let's say that right now.
It illuminates.
To illuminate. The fact is, I always wondered why the Jewish people didn't make some type of a group similar to the Illuminati, where you have maybe. By the way, there are banks. No, like a group, an inner group that works together on particular goals.
Wow.
That wasn't necessarily a group. Yeah, the Bruderbund. Yeah, but it wasn't like an official organized group. It was almost like if you joined the movement, you became part of the brotherhood. You could say the Shluchim. The Shluchim is a brotherhood. It's true.
Yeah, that's okay.
Shluchim. Shluchim is a very interesting brotherhood.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, it could
Welcome
be.
to the Neshama Club.
Yeah, but where's there a group today that we can join? We want to join a group to make sure that the Torah becomes spread out to the rest of the world, and that Mashiach comes. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a well-organized group.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. The most organized thing about them is that they meet once a year. They meet once a year in the Kinus HaShluchim. Yeah, it's true. Somebody once came to Chabad Rabbi, and the Chabad Rabbi actually approached him and tried to convince him to get involved, to do put on tefillin, whatever it is. And the guy says, I don't support organized religion. So the Chabad Rabbi looked at him and he says, religion, I'm not sure if we're religion. Maybe, depends how you see it. But organized, we're definitely not. Definitely not. That you don't have to worry about. We're not organized.
No, but there's
For a religion, we're not sure if we're a religion.
Forget about
Organized,
it.
we're definitely not. You could concur. There you go.
From my experience.
From your experience. There was once this lady on Facebook. She was actually a young lady that was divorced with, I think, 3 children. It was a sad situation. But for some reason, she decided to unload on me. Right? And what that means, I don't know if anybody was ever unloaded by a lady, but what that basically means is that they have so much inner stress and trauma that they just need somebody to kind of like either blame or listen to them, etc.
The kids these days call it trauma dumping.
Trauma dumping. Yeah. Trauma dump. So I got her trauma dumped. Why? Because she was actually she tells me that she was raised secular. She joined Chabad, and she kind of looked at like everything Chabad did was all horrible, and that's how she got married and get divorced and this and that. Like everything was my fault personally. Like I did it. She married also about tshuva, but whatever, it didn't work out. Yeah, and I never met her before this conversation, so I have no idea how I'm at fault. But apparently, she on Facebook, things happen. She sees a rabbi Chabad, this and that, boom.
Because of men like you.
Yeah. Anyway, so one of the things she kept on pushing. So she said something very interesting, by the way. She said like at the time in my life, I was looking for something and I was super susceptible and I would have joined any cult in the world. And just so happens to be I chose Chabad. So you know what I said? I said to her, well, aren't you happy you joined Chabad? I said, why? I said, well, there's other cults that if you join them, they won't let you out. They'll kidnap you. Did anybody in Chabad ever prevent you from leaving? She's like, no. I said, did anybody ever like from the movement ever like trap you in the house and lock the door or something like that? No. So I said, so you should be happy. You joined the better of all the cults. You joined the better one, right? You got to pick a cult, but a pretty good cult. And believe it or not, that's when she started cracking. She actually started cracking there. She's like, you're right. I would have joined. I could have joined the dangerous cult, and I joined the safe cult. At least I got that out of her. A safe-er cult. She joined a safe-er cult. No one held her against her will and forced her to do anything. Of course, all our ideology and everything else. So, anyways, I'm glad I helped the woman. Sometimes it's actually a skill. I don't know why I'm talking about this, but it's actually a skill it's a very important skill to learn how to properly listen to somebody that's in distress, because you really could help them. Like very often, by the way, I am a person that's extremely skeptical, especially in modern psychology. I am super skeptical about modern psychology. And one of the things that I'm skeptical about is a lot like everything that they do. Like I've actually challenged psychologists and psychiatrists and try to figure out like what is the mechanism, what is the idea, what is the proof that their strategy actually works. And guess what? It's if you go to a doctor, they'll tell you, go to a doctor and you ask, how does medicine work? They'll tell you, yeah, well, there was this lab and they dripped this into here and they dripped this into there and then they poked it into
No, they won't even tell you that.
poked it into a mouse and the mouse, it worked and therefore it proves and that's why it should work. And then ever since then, for 10 years, every human that has this disease, we give them this medicine and they'll tell you right away how it works. Go to a psychologist and say, how exactly does it work to, do this and this? I'm like, yeah, well, sometimes there were times that people said it made them feel better, right? And then, of course, 6 months later, they said it didn't feel better, but they don't count that. They only count the time that they said it 4 months earlier that they did feel better. And it's all based on people saying, and some people say yes, and some people say no. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I'm not sure when it works. I'm not sure when it doesn't work, but it might work sometimes, right? So let's do it. Right, and let's convince people that if they don't do it, they're going to jump off the roof. Even though most of the people that jumped off the roof are people that are actually going to psychologists. I'm telling you, if you look at the people that actually kill themselves, a huge. I never did the official math, and I never did a poll. But if you actually go to find people, that God forbid kill themselves, you'll find that I would say over 90% of them have gone to professional psychologists and psychiatrists. And by the way, many of them are on meds, right? And by the way, those meds are proven to cause suicidal thoughts. But yet, when somebody jumps off the roof, the first people that come and yell is like, you see everybody? You should have been coming to us. I'm like, excuse me, that person was going to you, idiot. I'm serious. I'm serious. I yelled. I have a friend that's actually a clinical psychologist, and he's also Chabadnik. He had black beard. I learned with him in 770 together. He went and became a psychologist. Right? Somebody killed themselves. Right? God forbid, it happens. Unfortunately, somebody within the community killed themselves. First thing it comes out, you see, the community must be taking this more seriously, and how, it's almost like the community's fault that this person killed himself because we're not encouraging people to go to people like him, like a psychotherapist, right? Right? I think it's a psychotherapist. They're just missing one comma in the right after psycho. A psycho, comma, therapist. Oh, he's a psycho. I know this.
Are you talking about his father?
Marriage counts different. Again, I'm not saying that every psychotherapist is a psychotherapist. There are a few. No, but I'm saying, listen, by the way, whoever made that name, whoever came up with that name, definitely did not have a clue about marketing. They had no clue about marketing, right? How on earth did they think that some calling an official, like calling an official, what do you call it? The license or a profession, right? A doctor's a doctor. Okay, a doctor. Doctor's like a healer, right? A healer, a doctor. Right here, call him a psychotherapist. The second I heard a guy's a psychotherapist, I'm like, uh-oh. Am I psycho because I'm going to you as a therapist? Or are you psycho because you are a psychotherapist? I don't know. Like, which one is true? Anyways, I want to make it clear. I'm not saying that psychotherapy and other type of therapy has no basis, but I'm telling you that every single psychotherapist that I spoke to told me the same thing, that they learned everything on the job. So some of the real good psychotherapists, they kind of developed their own strategies after they learned and got their license. Through their experience, they had to develop it themselves because there is no hardcore strategy that works, right? Correct. But what I'm saying is that this guy, this Chabad guy that came, that after somebody killed himself was yelling at everybody. You see, it's almost like he was blaming Chabad for not encouraging people to use his services, right? However, I happen to know personally the family, and I happen to know that this person was in therapy, and not only that, is the father of this person actually posted on YouTube on how she struggled and how much they spent on therapy and years. She was in therapy for like 5-6 years before she killed herself, God forbid, right? So I sent it to the psychotherapist. I said, excuse me, why are you making as if this is a proof that we should go to your services when this person went to your services, for goddamn sake, man? They went there, they came to the psychotherapist, and then they jumped off the roof. They didn't jump off the roof after 5-6 years of going to the psychotherapy. They jumped off the roof. If anything, you should be shutting your mouth and saying, hold on, maybe we don't work as well as we thought we did, because we've actually had this person in our office for 5 years before they killed themselves. Why didn't you stop them? Right? When was the last time you actually heard somebody kill themselves that didn't go to a psychotherapist beforehand, that didn't take medication? And by the way, you'll tell me, okay, because once they go nuts, they go to psychotherapy. Excuse me, it's not so simple, because a lot of people don't use psychotherapy, and a lot of people don't go to psychiatrists, and a lot of them are nuts too. I met them. I could tell you firsthand that there's a lot of nuts people that refuse to go to psychology, refuse to listen to psychiatrists, and they don't kill themselves as much as the people that do. Right? I'm serious. You could see it.
Case in point.
Case in point.
Like a really bad woman is worse than a woman at all.
Huh?
A really bad woman is way worse than a woman at all.
No, I think you made a really bad therapist.
A really bad therapist is way worse than a therapist.
Put it this way, I'm going to be honest, because Yosef Yitzchak is extremely offended, because I basically told him that his father is one worthless piece of garbage. That's at least what he thinks. That's at least what he thinks. But that's not really what I'm saying. The truth is, I actually got derailed off of saying that in Gemara it actually says. So again, because I am super skeptical, listen carefully. Because I am super skeptical specifically about modern psychology, I was wondering, is there any Torah source for general psychotherapy? I've actually found in the Gemara that it does exist. Oh. It does exist. The Gemara actually says that when something's really bothering you, you should share it with somebody. It does say that, right? It's true. So there is a Torah basis for sharing your troubles with somebody else. It actually says it in the Gemara. What? Again, it does say to share, but it doesn't say to make a regular, how should I say it, scheduled weekly, monthly, whatever it is, time to just sit there and spill your guts. It doesn't say that, right? Of course, the psychologists make a lot of money when you do that because every time you come to them, they charge you money. So they have a personal interest in keeping you there for as long as they want. The Rebbe actually, I haven't seen this inside, but I heard the Rebbe actually said that if something's bothering you, you should share it. You could and should go to a therapist, but maybe a few times to kind of get it off your chest. Once it's off your chest, move on. The Rebbe was against going to it for like indefinite time, meaning you have an issue, go deal with it a couple times, share it, because that's essentially what the Gemara says. Get it off your chest, but it doesn't say to get it off your chest and then get it off your chest and then get it off your chest again, right? You do it. You go a few times. And by the way, the reason why a lot of people go to psychotherapy and to other type of therapies that are similar to that is because it actually does feel good and it actually does help people. And I'm actually, Yosef Yitzchak thinks I'm ragging on this whole concept. I'm actually saying that there is a real, true use of this type of skill if done right. It has to be done right, right? Because it is based on the Talmudic teachings that there is something. And the reason I'm telling you this, because me personally, I very often was in situations where as I told you about this woman that, what was it called? Trauma dump. She trauma dumped me. And I think it really helped her. Like that one time, like there was probably never a Chabad rabbi, huh? Therapy is good for women. Saying for men is not good, only for women. Right? No, but the fact is that there is a significant benefit to listening to somebody that has trouble and just kind of listening and kind of absorbing it. It actually helps the other person immensely.
95% of people have no idea that.
Right, including the therapist, by the way. That's what I'm saying. I'll tell you what triggered me against the therapist or against the whole modern academic psychology industry. What triggered me is that when I was in Sydney, Australia, in 36 Flood Street, right? You ever went to 36 Flood Street? That's what it's called, 36 Flood Street.
Yeah, Marble Road.
Marble Road, yeah. We actually used to say, because Flood Street was like it's Mayonis Futsa. It's Mayonis. Mine is like a little thing. We were on Flood Street. Yeah. Anyways, Baruch Hashem, it's still there. I'm not sure who's running it. Switched hands a few times. But there's still a shul there. And I have a lot of memories from 36 Flood Street. When I was in Australia, so they decided to bring people that had experienced professionals in various different fields to speak to the Bachrim and to help them with good advice and community concepts, right? Yeah. So one of the guys they brought was like one of the top psychologists there, and this psychologist was sharing with us his experience. And when he was sharing us his experience, he's like, listen, I went and I studied, but what did I learn over there already? As I'm experienced, I saw this, I started developing skills, etc. And his basic message is that you don't need to learn psychology to be a psychologist. And so I asked him, well, if you don't need to learn psychology to be a psychologist, then what right does anybody have to say that if I'm not a licensed psychologist, I can't do X, Y, Z? Right? You're telling me that your whole study didn't really help until you got experience, right? So when you started getting experience, you were at the same level as me. So why could you charge and I can't charge? Why can't I charge and you could? So he really didn't have an answer for me. He's like, I don't know. That's it. That's the way the law is, and et cetera. Right? And that's why, actually, no, that many years later, because of this experience that really bothered me, many years later, when there was a time where I was a little bit strapped for cash, I actually did some research online, and I found out that, to call yourself a psychotherapist or a psychologist, you need to have a license. But to call yourself a coach, Bechlal. By the way, you do not need a license to call yourself a life coach or a spiritual coach or anything. You put the word coach in there, you're good to go. You don't need no license, right? As a matter of fact, there's this website online that'll even give you a certification. You pay them like $60. I think you have to come to like a 20-minute class of theirs, and they give you a certificate. You're a life coach certified by whatever it is. There is one company that's actually a very well-recognized certification, and that company you have to pay like $4,000 and yeah, for life coach certification. There's one company that's very well recognized. Yeah. No, but there is a company that certifies life coaches that is officially a reputable company. However, I'm not sure how many people that look for life coaches actually know that this is the only. I did research on this. There's only one company that actually does a proper certification for life coaches. It costs like $4,000, and it's something like 100 hours of, you have to study, and then you have to have what's it called? You have a mentorship. There's a whole thing. There is something about it, but most people don't even know what that company is. And when they hire a life coach, that life coach could be nothing. So because I needed some cash, and because I feel that at least I was at least as competent as this super professional psychologist when he went out of college, right? When he left college, maybe not at that point because he had experience. So I said, well, if he could charge, I could charge. So I started calling myself a spiritual coach. And believe it or not, I help people tremendously. Again, you have to realize I did speak to a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists. I spoke to a lot of other life coaches. So I got the general theory from people. I mean, I didn't just kind of make it up as I'm going. I did use theories and skills that I had in the past. I'll tell you, you want to know what the best skill I had for life coaching? Sales. I did a lot of sales. And in sales, you really learn how people's brains work, because the whole point of sales is that you have to tell them something to convince them to make a particular decision in their life. So for me, that was the best skill. And I think that because of that, I was better than all the other life coaches. I had a lot of people that quit their other life coaches to come to me. And there are other life coaches, by the way, even some psychologists. I had one person that quit their psychiatrist. I always told him, listen, I said, do not go off medication because of me. You have to go ask a psychiatrist. I didn't put you on the medication. I'm not taking you off of it. You have to deal.
You know what? Give me a medication.
No, I didn't do any of that. But there were people that left psychotherapy to come to my sessions. Not that they didn't leave to come to, like, they came to my sessions 4 or 5 times and like, this helps me a lot better than the psychotherapist. You know why? Because me and the psychotherapist were approximately as skilled as each other. Well, maybe I was even more skilled because the psychotherapist never had to sell anything to anybody. So they didn't know how to really convince somebody into enhancing their lives. Some people need to be convinced. And by the way, you should know this yeshiva, I know we're hacking a China a little bit here, but this yeshiva is heavily built on a lot of the skills I built in sales and in psychotherapy and in spiritual coaching. Like, a lot of it, it's skills that you develop over time. You see what is it that works, what is it that encourages people to do things, and what is, God forbid, the opposite. Right, and again, I'm not the biggest super master at this in the world, but I can tell you that the strategies that I use work very, very well.
The hospitals pay the psychotherapist a ton of money to push those.
Huh?
The psychiatrist, not the therapist.
Not the pharmaceuticals push them.
Give them a ton of money to push what they can. So
Yeah.
for them, if there's any thought in their mind that maybe potentially, even talking to help them, like, yeah, I'm going to make a certain amount of money to push this quota, so here, you're on Nelson, you're on Admiral, you're on this.
Right.
I'm making like $20,000 a month.
Can I know how to? They make. It's very difficult to know. Everybody's but the fact that a doctor has a personal or financial interest in medicating is a problem. It's true. But again, right. But the fact is, it's in their financial interest to make sure the matcha is as kosher as possible. Because if anybody figures out that it's not kosher, I guess so. Yeah, there's a truth to it. Yeah. I actually, when I was doing my spiritual coaching, by the way, when I did my spiritual coaching, I actually had a client of mine who was a psychiatrist working in a hospital. He was in charge. He was the head psychiatrist of a particular hospital, which obviously I cannot share because that it would kind of like break the confidence that he has in me. But again, he was the head psychiatrist of a particular hospital. And he used to come to me once a week, and we used to have a session. And you know what I told people when he was coming to me every week? I would tell people, listen, I go to a psychiatrist every week, but he pays me. I love that. That was like my favorite thing. And that was a favorite thing in my whole experience. Yeah. Psychiatrist came to me for spiritual coaching. Yeah. And the crazy thing, and I found out a lot of information from him. Like he openly shared to me that he said that we have no clue what these things, like we know generally what these pills do, but he says that very often he gives somebody a pill and they have a bad reaction. So he said, okay, bad reaction, we'll pull off. But it's like, even though he had something like 20 years of experience, when he meets a patient, he cannot know which pill is going to work. He literally experiments on every single person. It's like a personal experiment, right? Let's try this, and then they have a bad reaction. Okay, so then let's try that, and then that has not as bad of a reaction. So we go to this and we go to that, and they keep on going back and forth.
Yeah, exactly.
The point is that in modern medicine, there are a lot of things that have strong scientific evidence to their authenticity, to their value. There's a lot. However, when it comes to mental medications, there's very few. The only thing that I know of is I think for bipolar, they say that lithium is actually very relatively scientific, which means that they're kind of like whatever.
It's near and dear to my heart, but it's like, I mean, yeah, psychiatry is in a lot of ways like it's often a massive scam. It's almost just so hard to study because the brain is so complicated. Like you said, it's one thing like your liver is complicated, but not so complicated that if you give one guy this medication, you give two guys this medication, this guy gets better and this guy dies. Like usually things affect the body close enough to the same way. They kind of know. You generally know
the brain is. Yeah, but also I think an issue with psychology and psychiatry is essentially that the doctors of both psychologists and psychiatrists, they have no way to confirm that their methods are true. Their whole way of confirming is what the person says feels better or doesn't feel better. But all these things are not necessary. A lot of people argue that there's chemical imbalances. But what's causing the chemical imbalance? Could it be that the person's very thoughts and ideas are triggering these chemical imbalances, right? For example, if I pull my fist in front of your face and you really think I'm going to punch you, you will get an intense fear, right? And that intense fear will trigger certain things in your body to release certain hormones, protective hormone, adrenaline, whatever it is. What happens if me as a rabbi right now, you know me, I go like this? You see, the guy didn't flinch. Why did he didn't flinch? Right? If I was some tough-looking gangster in an alley and I go like this, and you'll physically get scared. But because I'm a rabbi and you know who I am and you've met me and you're used to me, I go like this and it doesn't do anything to you. Why? Because it has to do with how you perceive things, because your perception actually affects how these chemicals interact with each other.
There's for sure, it's both. It's definitely true, but there's definitely things you can't think your way in. Well, you can't think yourself in schizophrenia.
Well, who says? Maybe as a child. I'll give you a simple example. Schizophrenia is people are extremely afraid that everybody's out there to get them. What happens? Let's just say, arguably, they were raised with parents that constantly told them these nightmare-style stories. And those nightmare-style stories were all about how there's always this secret boogie monster waiting behind the bush, and this person's brain got used to every stupid little thing triggers them, and they're like, we're gonna attack right in front of them. Who says? Maybe that is the source.
There's no limit though.
Then what? So that's what I'm saying. So the question is, if you are arguing two different things. What he's arguing is perhaps these things are things that no one ever had control over, right? What I'm saying is it's possible that it was triggered by some intellectual problem. And what you're saying that it's also possible that once a person reaches a certain level, they can't get out of it, which I agree. I don't agree with completely. I think that if it was initiated by a thought process, it could be undone by a thought process, although it may be very difficult. That I do believe. I'll give you a simple example.
Exposure
I'll
therapy.
tell you something. Bipolar. They get these.
Mood swings.
They get these. What are they called?
Manic
Manic.
episodes?
They get these manic episodes where they're
Spend a bunch
sharp
of
and
money.
they're trying to change the world, and they're kind of like they're really productive. They're extremely productive, and they're extremely focused. And very often they can't even sleep at night because they can't get whatever they're doing out of their brains, right? And then all of a sudden they go into another episode where they don't do anything and they're extremely unproductive and they can't get out of bed and they're super depressed, etc. And then all of a sudden it goes back on the other way, right? So I've actually discussed with a few people that had these things, and one of the things that I told them, and it worked for some of them a little bit. It's hard, but what happens is that they get really they see usually what triggers the manic thing. It's triggered by some type of excitement to seeing that something actually is potential, and then they get super excited about it, that their brain puts like all their energy into it. And then after putting their energy into it for a certain amount of time, their brain's like, listen, I don't have any of these hormones left, I can't do it anymore. And so it kind of crashes, and then they become depressed because their brain doesn't want to use those hormones anymore, because the last time it used their hormones, it ran out. And then that happens for a long time till their brain kind of recuperates from the damage it did from the last manic experience, and then they're back, and it's kind of like a circle, right? So what I convince people that when they get manic, they should fight themselves to calm down, and that when they calm, they should fight themselves up, right? And for a few people, this actually worked. If they understood what I did, some of the people it worked. Because what happens is they're while they're getting super manic, you calm down. Okay, you know what? We'll do it, but just a little calmer. You know, we're going to do whatever the manic mood is pushing me to, but just calm down a little bit, just a little bit. Now, again, it's a theory, and I've never tried this. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychiatrist. Anybody out there, please consider it accordingly. I'm just a rabbi that has worked with thousands of people, and some of them I've helped more than another. Yeah, of course. Thousands of people over. I've been a rabbi for what, 22, 23 years, and a lot of people came to me for advice before I started doing the spiritual coaching and even after. But the thing is with specific, again, with bipolar, the way I think is it's almost like the person in their mind has an extreme perspective. So if they feel that they could succeed, they feel they can be God, you know, like they can be everything, right? They think that, you know, they get triggered. And by the way, they very often say this, like they really think that they're the biggest expert in the world in the field that they're involved in. And for those 20 minutes, they probably are, well, however long they are, because they're super hyper focused on whatever it is that they're doing. And for that day and a half, however, depends on how long their episode is, they are actually really good at what they do. I'm telling you, if anybody met people that are bipolar, if you catch them in their manic situation, they are good, really good at what they're doing. They're super good, right? But the thing is that because in their mind, it's almost like they think that because they are super into it, that they think that they must put it all in there, right? Because they're now going to change the world, you know, instantly for the better, right? The problem is that their body can't handle all that stress that they're putting onto themselves to express this extreme idea, right? Now, if they tell themselves, you know what, I am the best in the world, and we are going to, but let's not do it in 2 hours. Let's spread it out over a couple of days. Just chill out a little bit. Now, what they'll do is they'll kind of balance their hormones, that they'll allow their hormones to be excreted in a slow enough pace that it doesn't slam them back and forth, right? I think doctors do agree with me, by the way, because I've spoken to doctors about this. Again, what I'm trying to say is the chemical is triggered by a worldview perspective.
Well, here, let me explain something.
You don't realize the chemicals are being triggered. The chemicals themselves are being triggered by the person's perspective, meaning how the person sees that reality is actually triggering the chemicals. Now, again, when a person, when a person gets, you have to realize when a person gets used to, when a person's body got used to this pattern, it's very hard to get out of it. Which is another concept that, by the way, you're asking me why am I teaching this stuff? I think it is somewhat important because even to understand Gemara, you have to realize that the brain works by seeing the world and by creating patterns, right? Your whole brain works by patterns. So the more you do a particular pattern, the more your brain gets used to it, and the more your brain, it's almost like that's the default, right? The default is your brain gets used to, if this is the way you've been living, say for 10 years, you've been going back and forth. Every week, one time you have a day of manic, and then a week of depression, or whatever it is, right? Let's just say that's the way a person gets used to it, and they're doing this for 10 years. That is the default in their body. Now, in order to change the default, they have to actively do something and work on themselves to change the default, and it's not easy, and it's not going to change overnight. It's not, right? It's almost like if a person that smokes 2 packs a day, could they stop smoking cold turkey? Absolutely, and many people have. However, it's very difficult because they have urges. They're urged to do what their brain was used to. That's part of addiction. Your brain gets used to doing a particular thing, and then when you don't do it, your brain is like, excuse me, knock, knock, aren't we supposed to smoke right now? And you're like, no, I decided not to. And your brain is like, okay, well, 2 minutes later, it's like, knock, knock, you're supposed to smoke right now. It's the same thing with this thing, is that your body will be pushing you to act according to the patterns that your brain was working with up until today. To change, it's not a theory. I've tried and tested this, right? And if you, and again, the question is what are you going to think, and how are you going to get your brain to change a lot of that? Now, again, what I'm saying is that a lot of psychology and psychiatry, even admittingly, a lot of them will admit that it's triggered by a thought process. As a matter of fact, a lot of the psychotherapists are good ones. One of the theories that they learn in psychotherapy is exactly that. Is that they try to see how you react to certain things, and in each session they try to kind of nudge you slowly to start seeing it in a different way. But they themselves know they can't just tell you, oh, start seeing it in another way, because if they just tell you to start seeing it in another way, it's not going to work. So what do? They kind of correct you or suggest your corrections, etc., and slowly kind of, after 5-10 sessions, when you're meeting with the person, they're slowly trying to change your thought process and how you see things and how you think about things. It's not easy. It's a lot harder than it's a lot harder than it sounds, but I believe that a lot of psychological and psychiatrical problems are patterns of thought that a person got used to thinking that they have the potential to change.
Yeah, it's true.
I agree that it gets triggered by thought. The question is if you can undo the process. Because when you do something.
Yeah, but if it gets triggered by thought, if this idea gets triggered by thought and you don't think it, then how's it going to get triggered?
Because, as I said before, that once you tap into a certain chemical, you stuck with it. Not necessarily.
Forever?
I just don't know. I'm just saying I'm not convinced by the arguments.
Yeah. What's that?
I'm saying it could be that you can. You're saying that pressure also pressure hits it. The thought started, you get rid of the thought, it'll go away.
But you're looking at what I'm saying as if I'm thinking, okay, today I'll think it and that's that. No, what I'm saying is that it could be a long-term effort that's required. Because if your brain is used to thinking a particular pattern every single day, in reaction to a particular thing that's happening to you every day, right? You wake up every morning, your brain is used to the first thing, when I wake up, is this the way I think, right? Then in order to counterbalance that, you're going to have to do that numerous times. And every time you wake up, your brain's going to want to think the way it was always thinking, because that's the way the brain works. It wants to, or the human body wants to do what it did before. You understand? It's like a habit. You have to kind of, just like when you have a habit, you want to undo a habit. It's like undoing a habit. Yeah.
No, it's like undoing testosterone. It's like you
no, because the body has testosterone and it's built into it.
There's just chemicals in the brain running.
So first of all, that's what the way you said it is not exactly accurate. What they found is that people that are bipolar, there are certain chemical reactions in their brain, and the medicines are trying to counterbalance that. It's not dopamine. There's other things. Bipolar is usually lithium. They say it's a lithium imbalance, whatever it is. Usually that's why they give lithium. I'm not sure exactly why. I'm not a doctor, but the fact is that they're again the medical science today, they see what's happening in a person's body when they have bipolar, but they're not seeing why that happens. They don't. And it's seemingly, and by the way, you should know that there are people that have gotten diagnosed as bipolar and eventually got off of it, right? Yeah. And there have been a lot of people like that, as well as other things. I don't know about schizophrenia. I don't know enough about it, but bipolar, there's definitely people. Depression, even people that are clinical depressed, etc. There are people that manage to get off of it. Not everybody, but are people that do. Right now, if it's a completely medical problem, then how could some people get off of it and how come some people don't? So if you ask me, the people that get off of it manage to fight. The same thing with, as I told you, it's like a habit or an addiction. If a person's smoking, how come some people are able to quit and some people say they want to quit when they can't? It's a matter of willpower. It's a matter of how much effort they're actually making to change that habit, right? Now, if somebody's depressed, which by the way, depression is kind of like it's almost like a backstabbing disease, because depression basically means that you don't want to make effort. It's actually what it does to a person. It makes them not want to make an effort. And in order to stop being depressed, you have to make an effort. So it's kind of kills itself, right? It's a little bit, like if you ever heard of the disease AIDS, right? I haven't heard a lot. I'm not sure if they came out with a cure or they came out with. They have a manageable.
You can get rid of it, but you can make it so it doesn't.
But one of the problems with AIDS is that the first thing it does is it kills your immune system. So since it kills your immune system, it's almost like, how's your immune system supposed to take away this disease when it's not there anymore because the disease killed it, right? So depression and bipolar and all these things, very often they are their own. They kind of kill the ability of the person to attack it, because a person's not interested. When a person's depressed, they're not interested in effort. So how are you going to convince something that's not interested in effort that they need me to make an effort to get interested? Very difficult. And by the way, I've dealt with a lot of people that were depressed on a clinical depression as a spiritual coach, and that's really where a lot of my sales came in. Because I would never tell them, if I saw a person was depressed, I would never tell them, okay, you got to get up and be productive. Because they'll be like, well, being depressed makes me not want to be productive. Right? So I would usually find something that they want to do, usually out of their house, because depression basically locks people into their house. So one of the tricks is I said, well, what do you like doing? So, I like going out with friends and some old ladies, they want to go play bingo in something. I said, okay. So I said, I want you to do one thing. Don't do anything else. Just do me a favor. They have for this particular individual that I was working with, they had these senior citizen meetings, and this person was depressed, and they actually would have a van that would come pick them up, right? They would come pick them up for these meetings. So I said, do me a favor. I want you to do one thing. That's all. I'm giving you one simple task. What's the task? Call up this company and tell them to drive by to pick you up tomorrow. That's it. And they're like, yeah, but who says, am I going to get up tomorrow? I said, you worry about that tomorrow. Sure enough, I meet the person the next week. Did you go? Yes, absolutely. How did you get me out of bed? I don't know how, but for some reason the van comes and I'm going to tell them not to come. The van's already there waiting outside my house. I'm going to tell them, no, I'm not coming. So you understand what I did is I basically found a cheat to get that person out of the house, to push that person out of the house. Now, once that person was out of the house, they were already involved in people and they were socializing. And then that actually helped them. It helped them build an inner desire to actually work on themselves, because otherwise they won't. Anyways, I don't know why. I got a lot of people watching me online, but not so many comments. Where's all our comments? No one has anything to say. Oh, we have Yochanan Baruch. Yochanan Baruch, who never comes to my shir, doesn't pay attention unless I'm talking about something that has nothing to do with the Talmud. Then he's here and he's happy, he's laughing. Yeah.
We have the thought stringing here.
Yeah.
And you could work. In other words, the reason why that you have a few study cases where a person will stop having those issues.
Yeah.
Not necessarily improving restructuring of the thought.
Hold on a second. I'm talking about people that spent years with psychologists and psychiatrists and meds and all this. Nothing worked, and then all of a sudden, but they depends. By the way, a lot of people that take meds, again, a lot of people that take meds. It depends for which thing. But the people that take meds, very often their body gets used to it and they do see. And then what the doctor does is they keep on raising. They keep on raising the dose. In other words, the body gets used to living like that, and that's why it's extremely dangerous. One of the things you have to be really careful. Somebody that's on meds, you got to be very careful pulling them off the meds, right? And by the way, I was in cases where we're like, yeah, I'm happy, I don't need these meds anymore. I said, listen, before you stop taking the meds, go speak to the psychiatrist, because they have a whole way that they kind of lower it, etc. Lower it slowly, right? Yeah, you got to be careful. If you're on meds, you have to be very careful not to just drop them, because if you drop them, it can make it worse. Because your body is kind of like getting used to fighting the meds to the point that you keep on upping the dose, and then if you drop it, then it's like you go berserk.
Yeah.
Right. By the way, in my new job that I've been doing, the Talmud and rabbinic attorney, I've been dealing with people who were diagnosed and they were on meds for a while and they're off. What do you do with these people? It's hard, right? It's hard to deal with them. It's even worse. Huh? How could I call the police on them? What? They didn't do anything. If they hit somebody, if they hurt somebody, I could call the police on them. But if they just make stupid decisions, can't do anything about it. I don't know, manic, but they're definitely do not operate like a human being, normal human beings, and it's a problem. I've met a few cases like that. In my short, right now, what am I talking already for 2 years, 3 years, something like that.
But you think that with the right therapy, they don't need this?
Put it this way, I don't say with the right therapy. I did not say with the right therapy. I think if they do the correct work on themselves, which in some cases could be done through therapy, meaning if you have a therapist that knows what they're doing. And I like pointing that out. Usually when you have a doctor that made it through med school and went through residency, etc., usually they know something, right? They know a little bit, right? So you can trust them that even if he's not a very well-known doctor, you could trust that he knows basic details. With psychologists and psychiatrists, you cannot necessarily know that, right? You have to really go to somebody that has experience, that people will tell you that this person actually does a good job. Otherwise, don't go to them. I'm telling you, it's and sometimes it's dangerous because you rely on them as if they're giving you accurate information.
Especially
and they have no idea.
the way that the clinical therapists are trained now, with the new the DEI and intersectionalism and modern Marxism thing.
Yeah.
They basically, it's gone away from what it used to be. For example, so Rabbi, one example.
Sexualism.
For one example, so let's say you have an irrational phobia, right?
Yeah.
You can say it's a psychiatric condition. You've got a phobia. You've got arachnophobia. You're scared. You're irrationally scared of spiders, right? You're so scared of spiders that you're obsessing about it all the time. You can't live your life. You got to clean everything in the house 4 times a day, right? And so what the old way, which worked, they do something called exposure therapy, where basically it's like, okay, you're afraid of spiders. What we're going to do is I'm going to go in this room next to you. We're going to go in this room together, and there's going to be a spider in a cage. And we're going to go and we're going to look at it. And then if you feel uncomfortable, we're going to leave. And then the next session, you go back in the room and you're going to get closer to the spider. You get closer to the spider. You choose to get closer to the spider of your own will with the therapist, right? And the therapist says, hey, shh. And the therapist says, okay, if you get closer by your own will, look, nothing bad's happening. That's a spider. You're in the same room. You're right next to it. Everything's okay. And then you say, okay, well, now it's too much. Okay, we leave. 3 or 4 sessions, you get closer to the point where they So now you've put a new pattern about spiders in their mind, right? And that allows them to like let go of the phobia because you've built a new pattern about spiders that's been safe and controlled. And more importantly, they can choose of their own will to approach the spider, which is a situation they never would have done before. And that seems to reprogram it. But now they've been trained, the new cadre of therapists has been trained. You go in and say, I'm scared of spiders, they're so terrible. The new cadre, what do they tell you? You're so valid in your feelings. You're right. Spiders are scary. I'm so sorry that you have to go through that. Spiders are awful. Like that's the new cadre is just, you just reaffirm the person's feelings, even if they're crazy. You reaffirm their feelings and you tell them, I'm sorry. And when is your next appointment? You know?
You make more money that way. Anyways, we've hacked the China a lot today. I think he wants to give an example, only on video. Please sit down.
It's like if a woman is morbidly obese.
What? There's such a thing?
And she comes to a psychologist. She's like, I'm morbidly obese. So nowadays, psychologists be like, yo, rock that wheelchair, girl. Like body positive. Like
Body positivity.
You know, like get smaller t-shirts. Like rock that bod, girl. And then like instead of saying like, maybe we should get you on a diet, you know, like you have to take care of yourself. It's like diabetes check, you know, it becomes like a whole problem. So we have to do something about it.
I don't know. It's like I don't know which psychologist you're going to.
Their Q-Zin's name is
What's Zin? I never heard of that.
those things that they rotate.
Oh man, it's a very amusing topic. I see that I have more people here in my class than ever before. Maybe I should do this instead of the Talmud.
Just rip on psychiatry 5 days a week. Yeah, I can give you some more.
Yeah, I just wanted to do a full disclosure. I'm not saying that they don't have any value. I'm just saying that you got to be cautious. It's not as clear cut as other areas in science, right? That have somewhat of of a system that they follow, that they've been following for years, and they know that it works. It's a little bit like a developing concept. This person, Marshall Davidov, says stick with religion. He's like, listen, you don't quit your day job. You don't know what you're talking about. You're a bunch of BS. He's like, yeah, I like listening to the Talmud and the spiritual stuff. Now you're actually making sense. We don't want to talk to you anymore. You know, no point. That's what this harsh. Yeah, that's what. There you go. We'll put him on the screen over here. Marshall Davidov. Stick with religion. Yes. Anyways, yeah. All right, we're going to end over here. By the way, this is the last Talmud class, which wasn't really a Talmud class, but it's the last one of these morning sessions for about a month. Unless my producer over here keeps on talking about organizing a proper podcast where we'll speak about other topics, but hasn't yet succeeded in putting it together.
Can I go on? I've been told by literally dozens of people I should have a podcast.
Yeah.
Can I go on?
You could be the first guest.
You could be the first guest. Yeah, we'll make you a guest on that podcast. Good. Anything else?
It'll be at Bella's Courtyard.
Anything else? So, all right. Anybody that did not yet join our WhatsApp group, you can use the QR code that just appeared on the screen, and it will allow you to join our group. If you haven't yet subscribed, do it now before you forget, because once I shut it, you probably forget. So don't forget and do it. Mashiach now. We're going to bring Mashiach, and we'll see you in a month from now. Bezrat Hashem. Thanks for joining us. We love you all. And yeah, that's about it. Have a nice